All right, everybody, welcome back to the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, professional grade game calls made for every hunter.
If you're trying to get close with elk, turkey, predators, or waterfowl, Phelps has you covered.
That's right, so go to phelpsgamecalls.com. Get them close.
All right, Mike, welcome back in the studio. Today we're going to talk about our elk hunting adventures this year.
That's right.
Yeah, man, it was a pretty good season. A little challenging, but we learned a lot.
I would say, yeah, challenging is like the least part of it. It was a hard season. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
The archery season this year for Washington State, I give it up to all the guys that got out there and actually filled their tag. We hunted our butts off, and goose egg for us.
Yeah, we didn't come away with anything. We had some close encounters, several of them, and things started off real slow. Well, kinda, and then it got better as time went by. But yeah, man, it was a good year though to be out with you guys. And Mike, as your first year, welcome to camp.
Yep. All camped up.
He's all camped out. You can tell by his enthusiasm that he's so tired still from elk hunting.
How was it though, man? Like, it was your first elk hunt. It was your first deer season. We didn't even get into that in the first part, but how was it, getting into camp and hanging out with the guys and just experiencing your first elk season? Obviously, didn't go as planned. We didn't see shit, but how was it? Did you learn anything?
I learned it was fun being at camp and stuff with everybody, and I learned a lot from tracking and looking at the blood on all that one blood trail that we had.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of hiking, but hiking in sucks. I learned that.
Yeah, we're not 20 anymore. We're not in our Mike's in his mid-30s.
I got a special gift for you come your birthday. Just
this
FYI.
asshole. He was all right. Dave was giving me a hard time, so Mike was getting ready to leave. I was packing up, and he was like, "So Dave, where you going, man? Where you going?" I was like, "I ain't going nowhere." He was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm not touching that bike. I'm not going nowhere." I was like, "If I have to, I'll walk in or do whatever." But I was like, "I'm not touching that dang bike. Not today."
It was funny.
It was funny, and he was giving me a hard time, but
he's saying like, "Oh, we're not in our 20s anymore. We're not in our 30s anymore." He's like, "I'm 40 now," and
I can do it, but dude, it is rough.
After Luke and I left, I was like, "Should we tell them that your dad and Bill were doing this in their late 50s?"
Yeah, those guys are. I can do it. Don't get me wrong, but on days like 7, I was like, I'm not doing this.
It was a lot. It's a lot. It can become a lot.
These aren't e-bikes.
Yeah,
like the straight up. I'm pedaling.
Chevrolet. Chev with one foot, Rollet with the other.
That's right. I mean, to be honest, the first 4 or 5 days weren't bad. It was that 6th day, and then the 7th day, coming out. I actually have a really bad leg injury. Anyways, I tore my hamstring from my ass all the way down to my knee, and then I have a bunch of small tears on every ligament in my knee, and I tore my upper calf. So I mean,
for motorcycling.
Yeah, I wrecked really hard on. Actually, I didn't wreck hard at all. I lost the front end, and my leg just did something funky and tore everything in my right leg. So I am recovered, but after 6 days, the leg was hammered,
worn out.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some action.
Well, wait, I didn't. Well, Mike and I didn't have any action, so
we can talk about what happened. We can talk about what happened.
Yeah, I can call in a hunter like no problem. Like I can fool some other efforts. Like that's not hard. Now getting the elk to come into that, didn't have any luck this year.
So day 1, we ran into an elk herd.
Yes,
we called.
Yes,
we were calling, and we were doing I don't know, like a little cat road boogie deal where we were walking down the road calling every 100 yards or something. And at one point,
that's our MO.
At one point, Luke said, "I think I heard some mewing." I didn't hear him at first, but there was a couple cows down below mewing, and we just stopped, just listened to them, and we could hear them moving around. That was pretty cool because by the time that they had come to where we were in a good position where we could see down this little drainage and up the other side, probably 100 yards. And the only elk I saw in that group was a spike bull, and I thought, yeah, it looks like a funny cow. And this area was 3-point minimum, So
yeah, no cows, no spikes.
Yeah, 3-point minimum, and so this spike bull, and I couldn't even see him from where he was at because he was going through all these like devil's clubs and stuff in this drainage. I mean, it's thick, We hunt some area that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, and the ferns can get up to about 7 feet tall.
Yeah,
but that's no joke.
Yeah, seriously, you're up to your chest all the time, usually in ferns, and the good ferns are probably waist tall, but nothing sits there. So this spike, he started moving his head around kind of funny going through that stuff. So I thought, well, that's weird. So I pulled my binoculars up and saw these extra little antennae coming off by the ears. And I knew right then, so waited a little bit and, nothing happened. You guys made a circle and we pretty much had these elk in a box.
Bottom.
In a box pretty much. We had 4 corners covered. The wind was working in, I don't know which direction it was coming from, but it's blowing up the creek. So that was good.
And what is weird too is that we're on the opposite side of the creek and the wind was blowing up. So the thermals were going up, and the wind was blowing, in our faces, which was great on both sides of this drainage.
So that was hours of that day till evening.
Yeah,
trying to see what we could see down there, and they worked their way out of there, and we didn't really get too close to them after that first encounter. Day 2 is where it gets interesting because I was on my own and I was in an area and I drove in and then I parked and I walked to the timber patch. And this timber patch is probably maybe 150 yards to this weird clear cut type thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 150 yards from where I'd parked.
Devin and I have hunted that during rifle season. Yep.
So normally in rifle season, all the foliage is a little bit down. You can see a little bit better. I came through there and I was creeping. The road's kind of soft, nettles and moss, and so it was easy for me to walk quietly. Got to the other side, did my little look around. I looked to my left, freaking cow stands up, and I'm, at that point I didn't expect it because I didn't see it at first. It must have been bedded down or something. Cow stands up. Instantly get kind of nervous, start shaking a little bit. I'm like, oh shit, I got to range find this thing because it was a little far, but it was really deceptive because of how all the ferns were. And you guys saw the spot. It was just weird,
Well, that and the hill kind of dips down, goes up, and then dips again, like a little dip, and then goes up again, and then that's kind of like where the cow was kind of sitting or standing.
So I ranged that, and it was 52 yards. So
doable.
Put my 50 pin over there. I was a little bit bouncy, man. I to be honest, I was not steady. I was a little bit bouncy, and when
to give you credit, man, it's been a minute since you've been on full draw on an elk.
Yeah,
like long minute.
Well, I had my shoulder injury in 2020, and then I couldn't draw my bow back a half an inch. That was brutal, and then so I didn't have a lot of confidence going into that season, and then last year was a COVID year where they wouldn't let us camp here in Washington State. It was kind of weird. But we ended up making it out. I think after a couple months, they were doing this weird no fishing, no hunting, no camping, nothing. Right?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's been a while, and been in plenty of close encounters, and this one it was just that new excitement, I guess, getting back in the saddle, and I was a little bouncy, and when I touched the shot off, I felt like everything was pretty good, and I instantly got on the radio and got on the phone, texted you guys, and said, "Hey, shot a cow." And after that, I was looking at my pack that night before we were setting up camp. I had my headlamp out of my pack to set up the jacks and all that stuff and get everything situated.
So actually, let's bring it back just a minute before he gets into that. Luke and I, as myself, Luke, and Mike, we're all hunting together that day, and we kind of Luke and I looked at each other because Dave always will do this crap. Hey guys, I just got something, blah, blah, blah. Meet me back at camp. We get back to camp and he's like, no, I didn't.
It's not all, you can't say always.
89% of the time.
Yeah, whatever.
So we get back and we're like, Did you really? And we knew instantly right when he was like, yeah, we got to go. We're going to jump in the truck, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, looked at each other like, oh, shit, this is for real. Like,
Where are we jumping in the nice truck?
yeah,
real.
instantly.
I
Like,
said-
we knew, like, right when the first 3 words came out, it was like, oh, shit, it's on.
Yeah. I was like, get your headlamps. Let's go. We got to get going.
Yeah, and he wouldn't do that, and he wouldn't take the white lightning out there in the woods if it wasn't something for real. So it was super exciting when we met up. It was awesome.
We got loaded. We went back to the spot, and it was dark. And
Yeah,
so
it was pitch
I
black.
had marked my spot with a little reflector tape, and I started to go in prior to coming back to camp to get you guys and all that stuff. And it was surprisingly deep when we went in there. I mean, the ferns and stuff were up to our chest and shoulders in lots of spots, and so we decided ultimately that we should pull out and wait for light. So we left that.
Before we get into that, let's hear something from our sponsors.
Perfect.
This section of the broadcast is brought to you by Burpaw, burpaw.com.
Use Ridge 15 at checkout to receive a sweet discount. Okay. So we're in the spot, and we ultimately decided we should pull out and wait for morning. That night, pretty restless. I was, just chomping at the bit, nervous a little bit, and, it was a long night for me. Next day, we went in there. There was no tracks. I mean, it was pretty soft ground, but...
Well, I mean, we gave it a good effort that night. I mean, we were trying to track blood the best we could, or try to see blood, which we didn't.
Yeah.
And we're marking out certain sections. We're marking out little game trails. We're marking out all these other things, and then we all came to the conclusion that we weren't gonna get anything done in the dark. Let's come back at first light. And
which was a good decision, because when we finally found some blood, it was the size of your pinky nail, or half the size of your pinky nail.
Yeah, it was like just a droplet.
And it was, it was dry. The couple of them were, pretty easily identified as blood, but you had to be microscopically looking for blood. I mean, there was no indication that this shot was a vital shot, fortunately.
No, that
I could have skinned it. It was just...
Yeah, it's one of those things where you gotta, give it a good effort on trying to find this animal, only because in our minds we're like, we've seen this before, where animals won't bleed, but all of a sudden there's something piled up, 20 yards, down the hill or whatever, and that was not the case.
Yeah, we went a couple 100 yards looking, and the blood trail went from every 20 feet to 60 yards. We found another drop of blood just by looking through, like, this could be a trail, this could be a trail, look at this branch, and using every bit of knowledge that we had to determine whether or not something had come through here. And then there was one little drop, and that was like the last drop we saw, and she headed downhill to another little section where it crossed a road.
Yeah,
it ran up or down a road or across the road. We searched down and across, we searched down the ravine, no trail.
I mean, even just for us to get to that was 3 hours.
Yeah, and not
at
far.
least.
And then looking up the road, left and right, all the way down the road. I mean, just a tremendous effort went into that. I don't know. I mean, I'm 100% confident that elk is probably, I would say, no worse for the wear on that. Definitely not coughing any blood at all, for sure.
No, and that was the other thing too. So as we're looking through all these things, we're looking in the beds too, trying to find all these different beds, because usually when they bed down, all of a sudden you got a pool of blood, or they're coughing blood or something like that. There was none of that.
Yeah,
none at all. And usually when an animal is hit good in a vital area, even if the blood is not coming out of the animal, and it's in the cavity, they'll start coughing up blood. There was none of that. No like big spit ups or nothing. It was just little droplets.
Everything was the size of a fingernail or smaller pinky nail, and it was just
yeah. It was.
I was upset about it, and You know,
Well,
even
I
to this
mean-
day, it's like, dang it, opportunity missed. You know, and it was just everything came together, and
Probably the only elk on the
nerves.
whole mountain.
Yeah, the only
I'm not kidding. It was probably the only elk on the whole mountain because I was hunting deer over there. There was no deer. There was
So
no elk. That was the only elk on the whole mountain.
yeah, we didn't recover an animal on that one. So
Yeah, you know, sad to say, but I mean that's reality. It's hunting.
mhm.
You know,
We-
stuff like that happens.
And Luke and I had looked later too. Again, I thought, you know, maybe we'll find her, but it was just not going to happen. That trail was so small, and you know, it didn't improve. It actually diminished, and so you know, there was nothing we could have done to find that unless we had an animal that
Maybe a
could've-
bloodhound or something.
Yeah,
But, I mean, even at that, the bloodhound could. You know, who knows what
Yeah.
what happened? But I mean, hopefully, in our minds, the animal's walking and living and.
and that was day
Stuff
two.
like-
You know, day two, I was like, man, this is gonna be a good hunt. You know, day 3 and 4, now told another story. 0. Now it started. We tried everything.
So this was my whole thing. This year, the area that we hunt did a weird lottery with their motorized things to get into this tree farm. Dave and Mike were the only ones that got it. Mike has a Subaru WRX. He doesn't have a truck yet. Or a vehicle that will get him out deep in the woods like that, and his WRX is lowered. So it's not really gonna like work out. So he backed out of it, and you know, he rode in with me, but usually we all have motorized vehicle passes and we go to the back
18 miles in.
where the elk are. Like
Mhm.
we do this every single time. Like if they're not where we usually go, we instantly know, okay, we got to take an hour drive to the back.
Yeah.
It was not happening on these dang bikes. It's like a 5-hour bike ride and you can't even camp in the dang place.
So fast forward, you know, 3-4 days, we get to the point where Luke and I went out. Mike was going home. You guys went back.
That was on day 6.
Day 6. So
Yeah.
you guys went back to town. You were going to hunt local spots that were towards the mountain more.
Yep.
Up past north of Eatonville and stuff. And so Luke and I went out. In that morning, I took him to a spot. And I was like, dude, there's been a lot of elk up here. It's like one of my favorite, you know, elk hunting spots. And we got to the little spot, and I pulled the Phelps game call out. 1 toot, 3 bulls answered. Did Luke tell you this?
No, this is news to me. I don't.
Oh, okay. So 3 bulls.
He said that there was some elk activity. He didn't say what was going on.
Yeah, 3 bulls answered back at the same time. And we're like, oh shit, it's on. So we circled around a little bit, found a spot that was easier to get into, started hiking down, started cow calling. And Luke was probably 20 yards in front of me when we were working our way in. And I heard a little wispy bugle, just a little whistle. You know, just barely could hear it. And I was like, Luke, there's elk down here. I just heard him bugle. And he's like, I didn't hear the bugle. You know, so he didn't hear the bugle. And then next thing you know, this bull is really close to us, probably 200 yards. Full bugle, full chuckle. Cow call. I'm like, Luke, you need to get down there now. You need to go in front of me. He knows where we're at. We got to call him in. You're going to be in front. He's going to come up. You know, we're not talking how we're talking now, but we did the hand signals. We're go down there, get to the side, go to the side, make sure the wind, you know, go over there. So he gets over there. We're calling, this bull's just chuckling his head off, chuckling, bugling. Then the bugles became a little more silent, a little farther away.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that situation to me, this happened to Luke yesterday. You know, he was hunting in north, same thing. So Luke's heavy on cow calling, and
Yeah, he doesn't bugle at all.
I'm a bugler because
I like to get him fired up.
what I talked to Luke about last night was every time we're cow calling, the bulls will come in and they'll chuckle, but they don't fully commit. They won't come all the way in.
No, they'll hang up.
Yeah, they're hanging up, and I think they're waiting. They're calling those bugles and those chuckles. They're trying to get the cows to come down. And
Yeah, but what the thing that would help them, because that was a problem that I had last year. If you use that decoy, because they want to see it.
Mhm.
If you were to use a decoy and they put eyes on it, they're gonna come to it. I can almost guarantee it, because I had a bull hanging up and he could. I mean, we were like, I was seeing him, but he wasn't seeing a cow. he wasn't seeing a bull either.
Yeah. He was content on what he was looking at. Like, there's nothing here for me to
There's
see.
nothing here. He would come up, he would use his nose a little bit, and he's looking around, wouldn't see what was calling, turn right back around to his other cows that he can visually see.
That's what happened to us.
I'm thinking we need to start using more decoys. Luke had one.
You can use the decoys or, get the scenario right.
Either get them fired up and get them, pull them in by getting them fired up. But
I think if we would have gone down the mountain another 150 yards and then started cow calling, he'd have been on us. I mean, he would have been right on top of us. That probably would have, helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
But those scenarios are so different, It was very tricky. And he was coming in because he covered a lot of ground.
Did you notice if was there any cows?
I didn't hear any cows, but he circled around and he was ready to go. But with the other bulls in the area, 3 callbacks in that one bugle, I'm sure he was contending with other bulls the whole time. Because he didn't want to give them cows too much leeway.
I didn't notice any bulls with cows. I noticed cows and spikes alone by themselves. And if Mike and I had a bull, it had no cows.
Well, if I had noticed a bull with some cows, they would have had my full attention. It was one of those. It was weird. I mean, we had the one.
I don't think they were herded up yet, or they were just getting started to doing it.
So the guy that I had talked to, that guy that was logging up there, said like a week prior they were herded up. They were herded up, and what he said was they'll herd up and they'll lock down for a little bit, and then they'll break off. And then they'll start being more active. And he was thinking that this was the week when they were pretty much herded up and content with what they're doing, and then they weren't really
quiet.
Yeah, they weren't moving around too much, and so we've had this happen before.
Yeah, I was telling Mike, I want to say it was like 2015 or 2016. It was pretty bad. It was hard. It was hard hunting.
That was wasn't that big smoky year too?
Yep. And then the cycle came back around again, like 2022, 5 or 6 years later, same thing. Just that early week hunt, that first week, just wasn't happening.
Yeah. So even with all this, the slow period, just having that cow in the slow period and having that,
got something fired up.
Oh, the hunt was worth it, man. I mean, it's always worth it. But this was like a payoff at the last day.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
It was one of those things where when you have 3 bugle backs, at the as soon as you call, they were on it, man. I mean, they were ready.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was exciting. That was one of those things. And
I was hoping for Mike to get that experience. The only time we heard a bugle was deer season. Wasn't elk season yet.
My first bugling experience happened in Lewis. It was the Lewis River in the Mount Adams Wilderness. It's part of the Gifford Pinchot, South Gifford Pinchot. When that happened, they were bugling back to us at such close proximity. My legs turned into, like the Bambi Twitter leg. I had the Bambi Twitter legs, man. Thumper, my leg was jacking, like it was just going so fast. When I took pressure off one and put on the other one started going crazy.
We had Kirk on here. He was the contest that happened to me during turkey season.
Yeah, your muscles start twitching. It's insane.
It's fun.
I'll have to experience to see if I get it or not.
Yeah, you'll freak out.
When we got that low, like that far away bugle, it was just.
It's different when your ears are vibrating.
Yeah.
When they're like right in front of you, man, it's different. Everybody has a different experience, man. Dave had that experience with the cow where he got the jitters before. Dave usually gets the jitters right after. You make the shot, it's a clean shot, and all of a sudden your body is just like doing some weird stuff. Like it's hard to explain until you actually go through it.
Yeah, you get that adrenaline dump, and you're just like, oh man, this is the payoff,
Mm-hmm. But it's also like, dang, now it's time to clock in because that's when that actually work starts. Getting the animal prepared and get them out of the woods. That's when you clock in.
That is a whole nother episode or 10. So,
yeah.
Anyhow, been great, fellas. That's our season in a nutshell.
Yeah, but I want to actually get to Mike real quick because Mike hasn't really said jack.
Oh.
This is your first season. We still have the late season for archery. Today or tomorrow is actually the last day for deer season. So I mean, our season pretty much is over for archery for our early archery season. So we're looking forward to the late season. But you know, with this early archery season, I mean, yes, it was a lack of the experience for deer and elk, but you did draw on a couple deer.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would take away that you would do differently, or anything that you think that you still need to learn from just your experience right now?
From my experience, I would probably learn to more just to shoot and not try to do it for a perfect shot. Like when I drew on the deer when we're out elk
Mhm.
hunting, I should have just shot through the bush and just do an effort instead of waiting for it to, or trying to get a little closer. Because it was at 50. I can kill stuff at 50.
But it was, well, I mean, it was that bush like,
Yeah, it depends on the bush.
yeah.
Yeah, the bush it wasn't like a thick bush. It was kind of like branchy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, your
Probably wait on that
arrow,
one.
yeah, your arrow's
Yeah.
bright. So you did a good thing.
in my head, I was thinking if I would have shot it, since I have mechanical broadheads, it would have hit it and
It would have opened up right away.
Open right
And it would have
up.
changed the flight. It would have
Yeah.
changed everything. Even with the standard broadhead, you're not making it through there. One teeny little twig will change the trajectory of the arrow.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
I
going to go where it's
thought
going.
that.
So your second thoughts of not shooting that was actually a good thing. So, that's a takeaway. That's a takeaway from that hunt. You actually did something right when you look back at it, you're like, oh man, I should have just sent it. No, you shouldn't have. So that's actually a good thing.
I
So
also had like another takeaway because you saw when they were jumping across the road. I could have actually shot the second one, but it was so close to the road. I was too afraid that it would jump in to the road and go into like private land if I didn't kill it right away. So I'm like, well, I can't shoot that.
yeah.
Now, the road he's talking about, it's not a paved road. They're hiked up into a area where there's actually like logging roads where
Yeah,
they can walk
It's like
in.
the
So
gravel.
yeah, it's like gravel road. It's all gated off, so they're hiking in and biking in, and there are some patches of private land, but he didn't know where all the private land was. But
Yeah.
this area is pretty massive, so he probably would have been okay with that shot.
I don't have the Onyx map. I don't pay for it yet, so I don't know where the boundaries are.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have all the layers, but I mean, he already knows that he's gonna get the upgrade to the Onyx maps. We love Onyx. We use it all the time. There's definitely different map systems out there, but that's primarily the one that we use. There's Go Hunt. There's
Whatever you can use that lets you
see the boundaries.
have more more understanding of where you're at is better.
Right.
But
I mean, you drew on a deer and you did the right thing. So your takeaway was, oh, I should have sent it, but no, you shouldn't have. You actually did the right thing.
Yeah.
So finding the perfect shot, it's not necessarily being perfectly broadside. Like you don't need to do that perfectly broadside
Just
shot,
like-
but you want to make sure that you're not shooting through brush.
Yeah.
The arrow will not go through that stuff.
Perfect, like a non-obscured shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've shot through gaps and things.
You
where
can.
There's a gap.
There's some weird dirty shots that you can make it, squeeze it through a basketball hole, but you want to make sure that those pins of where you think that hole is. So say that like the animal's at 40 yards, that hole's at 32 yards. You want to make sure that those pins aren't touching anything in that area, or it's
the trajectory of your arrow with a loft.
Yeah.
it's toast.
It's a lot of learning curve in that stuff.
And those 3Ds will help you with that.
Oh yeah.
Shooting more 3Ds will help you with that, with trying to figure out like those shots, those.
You remember that video game, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter?
Oh yeah.
When you draw the bow back and you can see the arch line.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was shooting a ton, I could like visualize my arc of my arrow. Like I shot so many arrows that I could be able to be like, yep, no problem. Yep. And the arc of my arrow was like ingrained into my brain. And that was when I was shooting a 2006 Hoyt Ultratech, so that was brand new I shot a ton. And you get that green in your brain, and it kind of reminded me of that Turok the Dinosaur Hunter where the laser beam, like you got to know the arc of your arrow a little bit.
Yeah.
But taking those unnecessary risks, and maybe having a deflection into a wound, you probably want to eliminate that from your options as much as possible.
And Mike did the
he
right
did
thing. He did the right thing. So that's something that you've learned. And is there anything different that you would do with like your equipment or anything?
Get a butt pad so I could not sit on rocks.
Oh yeah, you're hiking around and sitting.
Yeah.
Well, he saw Luke's giant stadium pad pretty much, and he was like, I'm gonna get one of those.
That would be handy right about now.
Well, he has this like little teeny one that's I think is more for like a knee or an elbow. Like when you're doing like a long range rifle shot, I think it's for like an elbow or something. He sits on that, like except for like one butt cheek.
Switch left and right. That's funny.
Yeah, man. So I had a great time this hunting season, even though we didn't see anything. And I was telling Mike that, during the whole hunt, it's like, man, you might think that this sucks, but every single day you're gonna learn something new, and you're gonna, stash that away and use it for next year. So, next year, hopefully we can get on some animals and make it happen. But
the only thing I didn't really like was hike a bike. I always hate hiking my bike around.
Yeah. I mean, some of the hills we just weren't able to climb. It's like,
a lot of them
we got
to
push this sucker.
Yeah.
So hopefully next year that doesn't happen, or we just find a different spot, because I'm not doing the mountain bike
tapped
thing.
out. Yeah, well, it was a good time in camp. We had a lot of fun. We had some encounters and some activity. So
yeah, we did.
I have nothing to complain about, honestly. I mean, I think it was
just slow, man. I mean, it happens. It's elk hunting. That's what I like. People at work, oh, did you get anything? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, we didn't really see much. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I was like, no, actually, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, it's hunting. It's not every single time I walk out in the woods, I'm going to go kill something.
Yeah, and I found some pretty cool spots that I plan on visiting again. So, yeah, man, I really enjoyed this year with you guys. It was great.
It was awesome. Thank you, Mike, for coming in and being a part of the group this year. That was really cool, and you got along with everybody, because that was pretty much the first time everybody really met you. Yeah, I thought it was awesome, and I had a good time. I had a great time. It was awesome in elk camp this year.
All right.
Just like every year.
Well, let's look forward to late season. Also, I want to touch base on our duck series that we're going to be coming into.
Yes, the duck series is going to be starting here in October. Mm-hmm. Dave has some things lined up. We're going to be talking to some guides, or a guide, and yeah, we have a lot coming up.
We're going to bring the duck series to you as the flight is happening. And so, yeah, we're going to interview some people about the duck season, and we're going to talk to them through the season so we can get a feel for what's going on out there.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it should be fun.
That's going to be fun.
Like I've always said, duck hunting is one of my favorite hunts to go on.
That, and we're going to be working on the kill cave. We're going to be working on the kill cave, so we're going to be videoing here soon. We're trying to do it by October 15th, but we're hitting into October here.
Pretty quick.
Very shortly. Actually, when this podcast comes out, I think it'll be October.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get that done so we can start videoing it, so you guys can see us on YouTube and wherever else we're gonna have it.
Check out our Instagram, Ridgeline Podcast, on Instagram. We did our live tonight, first live during our recording, and see what we got going on there. And we're gonna bring more video to you shortly.
Yeah, the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast on Instagram. Also, Ridgeline Hunting. We have photos and everything on there. Go ahead and check those two things out. Also, we are on YouTube. There's just a few videos on there, and it's just Ridgeline Hunting on YouTube. You can check that out. But yeah, that's part 2 of our elk season.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. Everybody have a good night.